Hello everyone. Can you believe it's the 1st of February? It's not January anymore. Oh my god, does January just feel like it's got about 400 days in it? Oh, so it's February, it's not quite as freezing cold today, so there's no need for like big jumpers and hats and scarves and stuff, although it's still not warm, but I can't get sewing yet because it's still too cold, but I can start getting organised because it feels like it's so close. So I thought it might be cool. Let's all get organised together, all of us on the same journey. So we could take today to look at seed packets and catalogues and all those little things that you read that you think, what does that actually mean? So let's go. Right, now, you saw me going round a few months back, probably more than that now actually, and collecting seeds from the garden. So I have got those from last year for quite a few of the things I grow, but obviously I don't manage to do that with everything, so I still have to buy some stuff. So when you're buying seeds, if you're like me, you probably spend all year looking at stuff online. And you get the catalogues. As soon as you look at something online or buy something in or whatever, they send you catalogues whether you want them or not. So I get heaps of them. Occasionally I'll look at them, although to be honest I usually do everything online. And you buy seeds and there's stuff written in all the packets. But what does it all mean? Should you be paying attention to this kind of stuff? I always thought that kind of, I'm going to say, proper gardeners, folk who are not like me. I think everyone else knows more about gardening than me, but proper gardeners read all this stuff and know what it's all about. And I actually found out last year that that's not the case. So I did a wee blog post, and I'll link it up here, talking about what all that stuff means. And then I thought, actually, this is a brilliant time to share this with you guys and get it out there as well. So we're going to look at that today. And I also put a call out on Instagram for all the guys that follow us on Instagram and said to them, send me messages of the things you want to know about. So I told them if they get it in quick enough before I'm finished filming, I'll add that in. So here we go. These are the ones that I've bought, and this is all the stuff I've got that's not out of date yet or I've collected or whatever. So let's have a wee look. I've brought you over here because it's a bit easier. Otherwise I was going to have my back to you all the time. This is where rubbish goes. Right, let's have a wee look. What have I got then? Apart from my awesome seed box, which means that at this time of year, I go through all the things that are in there and I check the dates. Now there's a big thing, so let's look. So I've got stuff that isn't even opened yet, so you might be like, excellent, I don't need to buy seeds for that this year. Aha, that is something to look at first, okay? And again, I did this last year and I threw away so much stuff. So I made the promise to stop just buying every year and start following the packet's advice and stop wasting money. So, have you ever sown some seeds and they just don't take? I think we've all done it. So here's something to look for. So, on the bottom of these packets, you will see it's got packed in year ending, so that's when they put the seeds in, and it also has sow by. So these seeds are to be sown by 2022, okay? Now you do get a huge, you get a few years on all the packets, but just be aware, I tidied up this box last year and found so much that was 2 and 3 years out of date. Now, they may still work, but I always sow lots because there's always some that don't take, and that's your risk. If you sow things that are out of date, there's less chance that they'll take. Not no chance, but you may find that something that's fresh, more than half of them take. Something that's out of date, maybe you might find a quarter of them take. Just something to be aware of, okay? So there's the first thing. Always check for dates on the packets. And you'll see, let's have a look, some that's open. So, peppers, yep. So they've got the dates on the bottom as well. Something to look out for. So this one tells me, okay, so it's dwarf bean, Fandango, awesome name. So it's a French bean that I'm going to try growing this year. It's a whole other story in that. And it actually tells me, so it's got the dates for when I need to sow it by. And it tells me that this should give me a high yield, so that's good. So I should get a lot of fruit out of this. Tells me what to expect. There's no pictures, but it describes to me what I should expect. And importantly, it tells me about the weather conditions. So this is actually quite tolerant, and it will take varying weather conditions, and it has good disease tolerance. So that's something that's useful to look for. Now, what it doesn't do is it doesn't use the keywords that you might find. So what you may find in catalogues, more often catalogues rather than seed packets, is you may see something saying hardy or half hardy or tender. Okay, what that means is something that is tender. Okay, you put that out in your garden, and if it's really cold or a frost or whatever, it will kill it. It won't cope. So those are the types of things that you grow indoors or in a greenhouse, or you bring into the greenhouse if it's going to be really cold overnight. Okay, so that's your tender. Quite a lot of my herbs, I would say, are tender. Things like basil don't cope well up here, so I can't grow basil outdoors reliably. Can grow inside the greenhouse, but not outdoors. Okay. Half hardy and hardy. Hardy means it will cope outside if you're in the correct zone for growing that. Zones we'll get into in a minute. So if it's hardy, you can put it out in the garden and it should cope even when it gets proper cold. Half hardy, it probably will cope with most things, but you may find if you get an extended period of frost or lots of snow or whatever, then that will kill it off. Okay, so there you go. Hardy, half hardy, tender. Now you know what those mean. Okay, what else have I got in here that might be interesting? Yep, so this is Impatience, because Kate loves these, and it says here it is a half hardy. Okay, it also says it's a perennial. Okay, so again, perennial, annual and biannual. You might see this on seed packets. A perennial means it will come back year on year. Something fell over. A biannual means you'll get 2 years out of it. An annual means you'll get 1 year and it'll die. Okay, so those are the types of things that will set seeds so that there's a new plant the next year. So there you go. Perennial, biannual and annual. I'm just checking all the stuff coming in on Instagram. Marigolds. This bit. Okay. It says sow February to May and it will flower June to October. So again, that's really, really handy to know, because if you're planning your garden, you want to know that you've got colour at different times. You don't want everything to go in spring and then the rest of the year it's horrible and boring and dull. You want different colours, different times, so you can plant different things to give you colour at different times. Okay, and the back tells you sow and grow details. So the red is when you can sow it indoors, so February, March, the beginning of April. You can sow it outdoors, the end of April and May. You can plant it outside, so proper plant outside, June. And then from July until October, you should get flowers. So this is a handy one to know as well, because you don't want to be planting stuff out when it's too cold and it's not going to take, because it's just going to be really frustrating and a waste of seeds. So handy. Another wee thing to look for. You guys know that this is important. Perfect for pollinators. Okay, so it's got the RHS little bee logo there to tell you it's good for pollinators. So that's all your bees and your butterflies and all that kind of stuff. You want lots of this in your garden, guys. So look out for these. Okay, what else? Oh, some good questions coming in. Right, I've just been to find this for you. So I'm on the blog that I wrote about this stuff, because there's a really handy table on there that I can't do off the top of my head. So it's just so I've got the table. Again, link up here to the blog post. Go now and open up the table so you can do this with me. But we're going to talk about the zones, okay, because zones are important. Now, no matter where you are in the world, there will be a method for determining zones that will be local to you. So go and look up what your method is locally. So zones, so I use RHS rating for the zones, okay, because that's what we have in the UK. So looking at these, zones are handy because it will tell you roughly what temperatures to expect in that zone. So again, when you're looking at packets, when they tell you it will do, let me see, did this one have it? This one, a temperature of 15 to 20 Celsius is ideal. So if I know my zone, I know what temperatures I can expect to have, so I know whether or not this will work in my zone. The other way to do it is that you get numbers associated with zones. So I think here is an 8 or a 9 usually on the zones. So I can look for packets and things in the catalogues that tell me that these will work in a zone 8 or a 9. So things like palm trees don't really do so well here, funnily enough. But things like, what's cool? Most hydrangeas and things do okay, although they do tend to get a bit of frost damage in winter. So you guys know that I bring mine into the greenhouse over winter. What else? Yeah, skimmia and all that kind of thing, they do really, really well here. So these are good things to know. So go on the blog and look up the hardiness stuff, look up the zones, and have a think about where you might be and what that means for your plants. So yeah, there's a really good picture. If you're in the UK, it shows you where your zones are. So go and have a wee look at that. Yep, so here's one for you. So, tomatoes that I grow, F1, okay? So what that means is you get a few different types of, not types of seeds, but different types of instructions about the seeds. F1 is one of them, hybrid. You may have heard heirloom, okay? So these are the type of things you'll see. And what you need to know about that is, so F1 or hybrid tells you that that has been deliberately bred and cross-pollinated with certain plants in a certain way to get specific characteristics. Okay, so basically, imagine, let me see, I know that I had one type of sunflower last year that grew really, 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 really tall, okay? I had another one that was much shorter, but the shorter one also had nicer flowers. So I might decide that I want one that's really, really, really tall, but I want the nicer flowers. So I may cross-pollinate those two to try and get the best bits of both. Okay, that's really simplistic, but the hybrid and F1 labels let you know that that's been done. They have deliberately been bred to give you certain features. So it might be disease tolerance or intolerance or tolerance, yeah. So I'll get there. So it may be things like courgettes. We get a lot of problem with mosaic virus and mildew and that kind of thing because this is quite a damp sort of environment up here in Scotland. So you might want to pick courgettes that have been deliberately bred so that they cope well with that. I can't speak. Yeah, so that's that one. Heirloom, you'll hear that a lot. Heirloom's a kind of trendy thing, and everyone does, oh, I'm growing heirloom tomatoes. What that means is those are basically tomatoes that have been only pollinated with that other type, so that you'll always get the same one, there won't be any variations. But also, heirloom tends to mean that it's sort of from your local area. So you know it will do really well, because if I grow those in this garden and they're local to this environment, over years and years and years, long periods of time, those have adapted and they do well in this environment, okay? So that's something to know. It does mean you may not necessarily get the disease tolerance and that kind of thing, but swings and roundabouts, you choose. So that's a good thing. What else? Here's another good one. Determinate and indeterminate. You see this on tomatoes a lot, okay? Determinate is also called a bush variety, sometimes a patio or a container, or although a container tends to be smaller. But that means these are things like my indigo blue cherry tomatoes I grow, or my sweet millions. Those are bush tomatoes or determinate tomatoes. So I don't need to prune them, I can just leave them and they grow multiple stems and you get loads and loads of tomatoes. But it does take up quite a bit of space. Whereas indeterminate are what could be called vine. Okay, those are the ones that you deliberately trim, so there's only one stem, and you choose how many trusses you have on it. So those are the ones that grow really tall, but you deliberately trim off the extra stems so that you only have the one, or maybe sometimes the two. Okay, so that's what that means. So guys, I hope that was helpful. Now go through all your seeds, go through your catalogues, all that stuff, and let's start getting ready, because it's almost time. Let's get organised and we'll be planting soon. Right, my turn. See you guys. Really, you're not missing anything. All I'm doing is organising them so that I know when they have to be sown. Because I like to make sure I have, sow in January, sow in February, sow in March, etc. Nice and organised. Go on, you've got work to do, go.